Oh, Yemi, we finally get to
I
meet.
know, right?
I can't believe we've not crossed paths before. This makes no sense.
It's really great meeting you.
You too.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I had always felt that something was missing in terms of I didn't feel like I was doing better for more than myself. I wanted to be part of something that did better for the environment, for communities. And when I happened into sustainable fashion, because it was an accident, I found that that's what I needed that was missing, being part of something that looked at global communities, that looked at the earth, that looked at the impact beyond making something that was beautiful.
How do we ensure that we create that balance, that mindful balance between the people, the processes, and the environment to get people to understand that, you know, it's not always about the bottom line. It's not always about, you know, how much money can we make? You know, sometimes, you know, we have to ask ourselves or tell ourselves, when is enough enough? You know, and I don't really think it's about not making money. It's about making sure that every hand profits.
I was thinking about how what's happened with like the two pandemics, because we have COVID and then we've had the kind of the race pandemic as well, and how it's impacted our industry. I mean, how's it been for you? Because you work with like emerging brands, established brands. How have they been?
I have to give, you know, that comes with a deep sigh. Like,
yeah.
Whoosh.
Yeah.
It's not been easy at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I sort of had like a great start to the year. You know, it's our 10th year anniversary this year for Lagos Fashion Week.
Can you believe it's 10 years?
I can't believe it's 10 years, you know.
I mean, what you've built with Lagos Fashion Week, but also then your agency, which kind of, like you said, is like an incubator for brands and to help them scale themselves up.
The last 3 or 4 years, 4.5 years, it's sort of changed to how can we rebuild our own ecosystem to be able to support our own designers, to be able to ensure there's infrastructure that can, you know, help them grow, scale up, and, you know, provide everything that they hopefully need. Tell me about you. I mean, so glamorous. Sounds, you know, when you hear red carpet, green dress, I'm like, girl.
I always knew I wanted to work in fashion. I was always a creative person. And so when I moved to London to study my economics degree, I found that I love fashion, but I felt that something was missing. To me, sustainable fashion then was, okay, organic silk. I had no idea about all the nuances to it. I had no idea about it being about materials, but also dyes, also communities impacting manufacturing, sustainable strategies, certifications. I had no idea that it had all of this depth to it. There was so much more to it than just organic silk, right? Fast forward kind of 8-9 years, I came on board as a contest winner, and then I worked my way up through Red Carpet Green Dress as campaign director, and then global campaign director, and then vice president. And then last year, Susie and James named me the CEO of Red Carpet Green Dress. The Oscars campaign for us is incredible because we have a mainstream platform, and we're really passionate about taking mainstream spaces and having sustainable conversations. We could easily have the conversation about how fashion impacts the environment at Global Green, where it's all about eco-warriors and that audience, but we wanted to tackle mainstream. We want the global audience to hear what's going on. The core for us is just redefining how sustainability is seen and educating people to be aware that it's a culturally dynamic conversation. Sustainability in the United Kingdom is not the same as sustainability in Ghana. And actually, FYI, the Ghanaian sustainability could potentially teach the Western sustainability a great deal. There's an exchange happening. But right now, it does feel like it's a certain part of the world saying this is how to be sustainable.
So it's quite interesting as well that in Nigeria and so many parts of Africa, the way the designers work, it's naturally adapted or suited. It's what you call slow fashion anyway, you know, with the craftsmanship and the communities and all. But we realized that it was important for us to be deliberate about teaching and impacting the next generations. Where we're coming from, fashion really can save lives. Fashion can change lives. You know, coming from a country where, you know, the poverty line is people live below less than $1 a day, you know, coming from a country where the unemployment rate is probably in double digits, you know, getting people to understand that, you know, when you see the product, that's not just where the work starts. You have to pause for a minute to figure out, you know, how the process was. So if you think about it like that, from not necessarily from a value chain approach, but when you think about it from an ecosystem approach, like, you know, what I do can affect you, what you do can
Yes.
affect me, and you realize that fashion can change lives.
We're all interconnected.
We're all interconnected, and this has become even more relevant this season with
Exactly.
the pandemic, when we know that every decision you make can affect my life. So it's made us even more. The moments made us even more mindful of that.
We have to value human lives and
Yes.
human contributions
Yes.
as much as we value how beautiful this makes me look and
course.
how beautiful this makes me feel, because these are people's lives, and I think that the industry has to do better. Once COVID hit and factories were just being abandoned by brands that they had basically told 14 hours for to deliver what we as a consumerist society keep demanding more and more for. So we're all part of this, we're all accountable. It's about the expectation as consumers that we have that I've seen this now, I need to see something else. I've seen that now, I need to see something else. We need to slow that whole thing down because it's something we're all responsible for.
So in the quest for more, right, some things are suffering.
Yeah.
People are suffering.
Yeah.
The processes are suffering and the environment is suffering.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that we create that balance, that mindful balance between the people, the processes and the environment to get people to understand that, it's not always about the bottom line. It's not always about, how much money can we make? You know, sometimes, we have to ask ourselves or tell ourselves, when is enough?
Yeah.
And I don't really think it's about not making money. It's about making sure that every hand profits.
I think what we've both witnessed this year is when COVID hit, all of a sudden the red tape and the challenges that brands had before, because why they couldn't do things, suddenly they were like leaping over that red tape and cutting aside those barriers. All of a sudden they were repurposing their factories to deliver different things.
Masks and PPEs.
Masks and PPEs. Yes. So it's almost like, when it gets bad enough for you, then you can do it. Well, what about when it gets bad enough for them? Because they are us. And that's the whole thing about language. It's not, those aren't the garment workers, they're our garment workers. So legislation, it's like I'm beyond the soft approach now.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm getting to the point where we need to legislate. We need this to be written into law, because at the end of the day, what we have right now are guidelines.
Yeah.
We have,
Vague.
it's very vague, and that's the problem with guidelines and goals, right? We're hoping that we'll do this. It's like the New Deal. We're hoping that we can curb our carbon emissions by 30% by 2030. No, what we need now is we need this written into legislation. We need fines. We need incentives for those who want to do it but don't know how. When we're talking about the presence of Black people, people of colour, is staggeringly low compared to their white counterparts. So our presence in this industry is we're underrepresented in this industry. You could look at just walking out and going into, as somebody who's been in the fashion industry for a long time, working in different roles, I can say to you that I have walked into so many spaces as a Black woman and been the only Black woman in that space. And I know for a fact that I'm not the only capable Black person of doing this job. I'm not the only person with the skill set, education, or access to resources able to deliver what I'm delivering, but there's a filtration system that happens in this industry, and unfortunately it affects Black, brown, people of colour, Indigenous people disproportionately. You just have to look around. It's not something that I can turn a blind eye to. If you take a fashion brand that's offering an internship, but it's an unpaid internship, that means that anybody who doesn't have the disposable income or is not from a socioeconomic group where they can afford to do an internship that's unpaid means that they will automatically be declined that opportunity or won't be able to apply for that opportunity because they can't support themselves. They just can't. So then you start unpacking how wealth is distributed within the industry or how wealth is distributed within society, and you'll start seeing very strange and striking similarities. We've seen the spill out of it. We've seen the vocalization about the need to decolonize the fashion industry, and that's a big word, and I get it, but it's a necessary word. It's an infrastructure in place that prohibits groups from access, from being brought into the table to have conversations. When you think about biodiversity loss or anything affecting the environment or communities, often it's those most impacted, more vulnerable, who have less presence in the conversation. So even though this is affecting my community or your community, we aren't present in the conversations when it comes to policy, strategy, and so on.
How effective is every company now, every major, every other company is, creating or employing a diversity chief, an inclusivity this, all of that, I call it the scramble and petition for getting a person of color on board. Grab one quick and, let the person be the face of, so how effective is that? Do you really think it's going to change anything? Do they have the power, or is just, another act of tokenism?
Yes, there was an element where people are reacting and saying, well, we need to appoint somebody. And I almost feel like that's just the wrong way to go about this. You don't actually need to do this token knee-jerk reaction. Actually do the deep work of auditing your company, researching your company, interviewing your employees. Do something that's a bit more thought through versus reactionary.
Yeah. Do you think, is it possible that some people are really completely oblivious to what's that they're in positions of privilege? Like, do you really think that they're not aware that, wow, okay, I'm here today because of XYZ?
I think that being oblivious is a privilege.
Girl.
I think that being able to be oblivious to something is a privilege. Be able to say, oh, I didn't realise that there were no other... Oh my goodness, I didn't realise I was the only... That's a privilege because
I didn't realise that in this whole store we only have 3 black brands.
Goodness, what a shocker. Did you know that? To be able to have that reaction is a privilege because for many of us, we are acutely aware that we are the only one. We are acutely aware because we are the only one, and we carry such a responsibility to do not only our job well, but to represent others who are not in that room with us. So it's a privilege to be oblivious in 2020. It really is. When you walk out of this building, we're in London right now, and we go onto the street, we walk past people that look
different people.
Everything and anything.
Multicultural,
ages, races, sizes.
diverse, yes.
But then you walk into an office and
you forget
all that.
Suddenly
That's all been filtered through.
You just,
it's
separate
a
yourself
thing.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
back
a
in my
conscious
bubble.
thing. It's a conscious comfort bubble. But 2020 is popping the conscious comfort bubbles.
And I think that's what we need to take with us from this moment on, that consciousness.
Yeah.
We shouldn't expect that. No one should think that, you will automatically know. You're mindful about so many things. I'm mindful about so many things. And I think that's what everybody, that's the responsibility that everyone should, have or, hold themselves accountable. The way we're all accountable to each other today because of the pandemic is we have that duty to self, duty to society, duty to family, duty to community.
We're wasting at such an astronomical scale. And I think that whole idea of what we value as often only being the finished product and everything that goes into that almost suddenly becomes valueless once the product's finished. And it's this whole idea that, well, waste is only waste if you waste it.
So value doesn't end with the wearer, with the first, first person who comes in contact with it. It's that product that can, for as long as it's in existence, really, either in its pure state or in the state in which it becomes repurposed or recycled, it would always bring value to the wearer. We recently had a project called Woven Threads as part of Lagos Fashion Week. And actually the same designer, This Is Us, came up with a video. What does it mean to design like an African? It means to be able to design and create for a very long time.
Right.
And that's what value means. Creating something out of nothing, but can last for as long as possible. How do we create magic out of this? How do we give meaning? How do we give purpose to, a bunch of silk threads or woven cotton threads from different parts of the continent? And that gives me a sense of hope that not only can we share who we are with the people, but we can also tell them where we're coming from. And we're coming from a place where value to us means the people, where value for us means the process, where value for us means, being able to be mindful of everybody that we work with and to be able to do more.